it's great to be able to add my own cucumbers and tomatoes. But that's one of those crops, is a great example, similar to zucchini, where I'm always going to have, if they do well, more than I ever really need.
Yeah, and I mean,
So,
I like making pickles. I enjoy them, but I started looking at 2 years without making pickles, and you know what I realized? I don't miss pickles. I just don't miss pickles. Now, I will
yeah.
say this, what I do miss is a fresh cucumber, like you said, a little bit of vinegar, a little
Hmm.
bit of pepper. That's what I miss. But as far as pickles go, like we could make like a jar or two, and that'll
Yeah.
make us through the year easily. I mean, it
There's,
comes to a point when you start preserving, which put a pin in it. We need to do preserving episodes,
uh
um, where you preserve it and then you just like you said, I just got to choke it down.
yeah.
And it's like, nah,
Yeah.
bro, you don't need to choke it down.
Yeah, there's something about, especially with the quick and easy preserving of summer vegetables, there's something about how much more vinegar can I consume. Like so many of the recipes when it comes to your summer foods basically have a vinegar taste to it. They're preserved through the act of adding vinegar, right? And it's like a good old pickle. I don't know that if you buy a jar of pickles, I don't know that you really connect with the idea of this it has vinegar in it, just based on the other things that are added to it. But of course, it does. But you think about the other things. You think about relishes. You think about, in some cases, depending on what kind of tomato products you're making. And I do stop sometimes and say, I've overcorrected when it comes to, I can grow this and I can preserve this. And so I need many of it. The opening of the episode about true confessions and preserving and all is going to be tomatoes. And I'll leave it at that because it's too much to give away. And that's enough of a teaser.
So, first of all, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I've
Yeah,
learned that. I've learned that the
absolutely.
hard way. And two, I was the same way about the vinegar. I was like,
Hmm.
my God, we're going through gallons of vinegar. What's the story? And I realized that, like, hey, if you pressure can, you don't need vinegar. So I started doing more pressure canning because I mean, it's like, damn, man, my body's getting acidic over here. Like, I'm all set. So I definitely agree with you. And, these were all things that led me to really narrow down the not just what I grow, but the quantities of what I grow. So, and it does annoy me. And it's just kind of the position that you and I are both in when people see your garden and they're like, well, why are you growing so much of that? And it's like, well, because I want to grow so much of that because that's what we eat.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Why did you grow 100 onions? Because I wanted 100 onions.
Hmm.
Because what
Hmm.
I'm doing, and again, I think this is where the homestead and the garden are kind of separated a little bit, is what I'm doing is I'm looking ahead and saying, this is what I need for the year.
Yeah.
I grow one double row of garlic every year, and that's all the garlic I need. I
Hmm.
may go a
Hmm.
month without fresh garlic. So I know, like, okay. And I just happened to fall upon that. And well, no, one year I had way too much and it all was just sprouting. And so it was like, let's move on. And so I cut it back and that happened to be just right. And so,
Hmm.
we started to figure that out. I mean, my son loves to eat carrots, loves them. So we're going to grow carrots. That's how we started growing carrots. Because look, anytime you got a kid that's like, I love this vegetable, you say, okay, you go all in. Peppers, same way. Like, he loves sweet peppers and take him to school. And I've started now, like, so we'll buy those in the wintertime because, and I hate doing this because, we do that seasonal eating business. I
Hmm.
hate buying stuff that's out of season, but he loves them, those little snack peppers. And so he'll take them, but every once in a while, and so this is my trick. This is my trick, everybody. So, he takes those peppers to school. Well, every once in a while, he'll forget about them. And when I cook dinner, I'll pull them out and I'll see this bag and they'll start to get a little wrinkled on them. So what I started doing is cooking them in the frying pan. You know how you kind of burn them a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, the family loves them. So now I've got a whole family that loves peppers again. So it's like, okay, cool.
Blistered,
Let's,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
blistered was the word. So,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
start doing these things and you're like, okay. And that's how I got to grow those lipstick peppers.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not growing them this year. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, but I'm not growing them this year. But they were a smaller pepper and that would
Yeah.
mimic what he was taking to school. So that's why I started growing them, and he enjoyed them. But I just wanted to change it, and I made the judgment call. I'm like, whatever, you can eat a bell pepper. So we kind of separated from that this year, but even still, there's just so many different options available to you when you make your plan, and when you starting seeds, those options go from, you know, 50 different options to literally thousands of options within reason.
Yeah, I think I set it up at the beginning around it's not just about what you're planting that you're planning for, right? It's about you're planning for the consumption of it. And
Absolutely.
generally speaking, it feels like that's the consumption of managed like fresh eating. But and we kind of teetered on and talked about, excuse me, preservation, but plan for, and this takes me getting used to, I'm still working through it, and I feel like this is the year. Plan for the act of between harvest and kitchen, the time that you spent. I have a plan for my garlic this year, that garlic is one of those out of sight, out of mind. Once you've pulled it out of the garden and it's going to be, cured, but I want to do some other things with it at that stage, but I have to have time, I have to stop and make time to do that. And that also is thinking about in July when I'm harvesting and when it's curing, right? Like I have to plan for that as well. So if I have 300, heads of garlic, which I don't, that's a lot more time spent than if I had 150, than if I had 75, than if I had 30. Like
Yeah.
those are the things that we really want to consider. And it's interesting, and just one more note about garlic in particular. 2 years ago, I had about like I was using a lot of garlic because I was doing a lot of preserving, and a lot of those dishes called for it. And I just love not needing to go to the store to pick that up or not needing to omit it. Last year, I did less preserving, and I probably planted about the same amount of garlic. That was the trick here is I didn't plan to do less preserving. It just happened with life. But now I have again this surplus of garlic now because I didn't use it in the same way that I had planned for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and so it changes, and you need to be fluid in it, and you don't have to have the same garden plan every year necessarily.
Mhm. Mhm.
You should definitely be tweaking it. You should be looking at it, making changes, and then figuring out after that, like, hey, what can I do different? What do I need more of? What do I need less of? And I would say don't worry about what means summer to you. I think that's I don't want to use the word gross, but it is kind of gross to me that for so many years, I had to grow that yellow squash or it wasn't summer. Like I don't like that I was held to that. And the same with like pickles. Like just because I could make pickles doesn't mean that I love them. I like them, but and my son likes pickles too. But it's the same thing. So we looked at it and we said, okay. And over the past 2 years, with having because we had the mosaic virus issue, I started looking at it and saying, all right, we want maybe a jar or two of pickles. Cool. Well, if we grow an 8 foot trellis of pickles, we're going to get a lot more than that. So, what are other ways we can consume them? And what are other ways that we can preserve them? And so, you mentioned relishes. I've never made a relish. So,
Mhm.
again, we don't eat a lot of relish, but a couple jars of relish would probably be good. I think we probably go through 2 jars of relish a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we'll make a little bit of relish, make a little bit of this, make a little bit of that, and kind of have those things available to us. But
Mhm.
I guess the moral of the story here, and I didn't expect this to go down quite the preserving route, but not only, really thinking about the preserving aspect of it and all the different ways you can use those vegetables, because if you look at the grocery store, a lot of vegetables are this, a lot of dishes have the same vegetable in it over and over, a lot of sauces and stuff like that. So it makes sense to do that.
Yeah. I want to go back and I want to challenge your, don't grow it because it feels like summer. I'm going to say find the thing that feels like summer that you really enjoy and grow that.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that that's generally what you mean. But growing it for growing its sake, like I can look back and I have had more woes and more flops with zucchini than I've had wins. And it's okay. It's okay if I never grow zucchini again. I do internally, face the challenge of if it's something that I want and I could have grown it and I didn't grow it, especially during like the summer and fall. I'm kind of like, ah,
Yeah.
like it pains me to go buy it. But I'm working my way away from that perspective because what I know is I'm not going to have room or time to grow it all. And I'm okay with I don't want to restrict myself from it just because it didn't make it into my garden, you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely. So there you go. Tailor your gardens for your taste. Use them for your, whatever you want to do. Grow what you want to grow. Don't let the seasons dictate within reason, and just enjoy it and tweak it over time. Like stay on your toes with it and keep looking at it, and you'll figure it out. You'll get what you want out of your garden. I think you'll end up growing. You'll be happier with your garden once you tailor it to your family's needs. This
Mhm.
is the only, I mean, this is the ultimate garden plan, is your plan.
Yeah,
So, and
absolutely.
and once you're consuming what you've grown, I mean, you've nailed it. So, thank you for being a subscriber, a patron, whatever you may be out there. This episode will be loaded on YouTube. It will be set to private until we get memberships available. So it will be there, and they're all going. So thank you for that. Come check out our seeds. We still have a bunch of those left. We are running low on a couple, but we got you. We got you. And until next time, remember, we do two things on this show: we learn to grow, and we grow for change.
See ya.